America is becoming a country people don't want to live in anymore. As an American who's been living abroad for just about 17 of the past 20 months, I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. I have no inclination, no desire to go back to the USA anytime in the near future. And I have my reasons. I have spoken at great length about my reasons in many of my videos. That said, I'm curious to hear about what reasons other Americans have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this reaction.
We're really living in interesting times. A recent poll has showed that 50% of Americans have at least considered relocating within the next few years. This is because of the cost of living and also what's going on with the tensions here in the United States.
I'm Rachel, and my husband and I are leaving behind a six-figure income to move abroad unemployed in 44 days. But before that, we are leaving behind our home in Seattle, where we've lived with our two dogs for 12 years, packing up our car, driving across the country to spend the entire month of August with our families in Massachusetts. And that's happening in 8 days, so things are getting real around here.
So she mentioned that they are leaving behind their six-figure income. I don't know if she said income or incomes as in plural, but even if you make six figures as a household, that's objectively quite a bit of money. And I think this really proves that it's not just the Americans who can't really afford to be in America who want to leave. It's the Americans who have money as well. It's people in every single tax bracket who are seeing that America is a sinking ship. And I mentioned this in another video recently, but generally the people on the mountaintop have the best view of what's coming. So rest assured that if you see people with money leaving a place, it might be a good idea to inquire as to why that is.
I know a lot of you are going to want to know why, and the short version is we burned out hard chasing the version of success that we're all sold here in the US. And eventually my husband and I kind of looked at each other and just said, what if we did this differently? And what if we kind of put our trust in the universe that things are going to work out? So we are packing up our life, our two dogs, and we are flying to Italy to try something a little bit slower, a little bit softer, something that feels more honest.
And the cool thing about what she's doing there, what her and her family are doing, is that if they get to Italy and they don't like it, it's not like Seattle is going anywhere. They can always go back. So it's a very low risk proposition. People always frame those international moves as very big risks, but you really have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And I love that she talked about how the American dream is basically just smoke and mirrors. And I've made many videos talking about that, so I'm not even going to go too deep into that. But I'll just say this. Americans are working much harder than Europeans just so that they can hopefully achieve the same lifestyle that the average European already has.
We're looking at leaving. We're going to look at Canada and Portugal. Those are the two places we're looking. I can't even...
Those are two very different countries, both much better than the US though.
I can't even believe that I have to say this, but I am not going to sit and wait and hope that what we're seeing unfold doesn't actually happen. I'm not. I'm almost 60. What does that give me? Another 25, 30 years? I'm just keeping it real here. I don't want to live it like this. It's just not. No, I don't.
Again, you have nothing to lose by leaving the US and everything to potentially gain. So it's a very low risk proposition, especially for someone in her position. Obviously, at her age, making these moves is a little more consequential because you have less time to recover from them. theoretically speaking, because nothing is promised. But generally speaking, the biggest risk that someone like her can take is to stay in the US and watch how things are going to unfold, because it's a very dynamic situation and no one really knows exactly what's going to happen. We just know that it's not going to be something that we want. So again, if you're an American who's in a position similar to her, or myself, or anyone else that you'll see throughout this video, I'd highly encourage you to book that flight.
I want to. And so, do I want to leave my country? No. But my country kind of disappeared around 2015. And now it's unrecognizable to me. And so we're going to do a little research. We've got our Go stuff packed, all our documentation. We are going to check out Canada first, probably come back here, go check out Portugal, come back here, maybe Turkey. I'm not sure, it depends.
Yeah, she probably picked 3 of the most different countries that you could ever possibly pick: Canada, Portugal, and Turkey. So 3 completely different countries with completely different cultures, on different continents at that, depending on which part of Turkey. But the implication is that all 3 of those places provide a higher quality of life than the USA in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, can you, it's like mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
Hi, my name is Chelsea, and we moved to the Netherlands from Michigan in 2 weeks from yesterday. So, yeah, I haven't said anything on this app because I haven't really been on this app. We've been planning this for about 2 years now. We have 3 kids and a dog, and me and my husband, and we are moving to the Netherlands. And we both quit our corporate jobs of 14 years, and I'm going all in on my own business, which is kind of like content. I do videos and photos for myself as well as for other people and other companies, and yeah, I'm just going all in on myself.
So I love this video right here because she is a shining example of the fact that this quote-unquote American dream of starting your own business or coming up in the world is very, very possible in other countries as well. And in fact, in this day and age, it's more possible in a country like the Netherlands. And it's interesting because people always talk about how European countries tend to be socialist or whatever that means. And yet the Netherlands is actually the country that invented capitalism. And believe me when I tell you that as someone who lived in the Netherlands for 14 months, starting and running a business there is very, very straightforward. It is very straightforward. It's very simple. I was never able to wrap my head around that process in the US, but in the Netherlands, in spite of me not knowing the language, I was still able to get everything set up, to set my business up with the KVK, which is the Dutch Chamber of Commerce, so on and so forth. So don't let this stereotype of Europeans being anti-entrepreneurship deter you from going to Europe, because I found the opposite to be true.
Kind of scary, kind of exciting.
Well, this is officially my last evening and my last drive in the divided states of America before me and my family immigrate to Spain tomorrow. And I don't really know what I'm feeling. I actually feel like I'm just compartmentalizing everything right now.
Genuinely asking because I'm curious.
So she's going to Spain. I'm really trying to keep track of where most of these Americans are actually going to. I'm seeing a lot of Americans going to Europe, which makes sense because it's going to provide the highest quality of life pretty much in the whole world for most people, objectively speaking. I'm in Thailand because Thailand is just significantly cheaper, but honestly, most European countries are cheaper than the US as well, and also provide a significantly higher quality of life.
I'm not one to fearmonger, but I am wondering How many of us are researching getting out of the US of A, and what are the things that need to happen in order for it to trigger that reaction? I fear that I will wait until it's too late and everybody's trying to do it at the same time, but I also don't want to live in fear, and I love my life in New York City, and I don't know another language because I had education in the United States and they don't value that. You get 2 years after you're 15 when we all know you're supposed to learn it younger, blah, 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 whatever. I guess I'm just afraid.
So the cool thing about learning languages, for as difficult as it is, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always learn a new language. I'm in the process of learning Dutch myself. Ik spreek een beetje Nederlands. My Dutch has a very, very long way to go, but it's also come a very long way. To say that I can speak this much of a language that when I was 15, I probably didn't even know existed, is a very good example of how it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you can learn another language. Millions upon millions of people, probably billions of people around the world are able to do it. I promise you are very likely not the exception.
Afraid that I'm going to be caught in a situation from which I cannot extricate myself, and that I am not interested in. I also don't want to be trying to leave when millions of other people are trying to leave. So what's the plan?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you want to do something in life, you want to do it ahead of the curve because you're going to have advantages if you do something before the masses do. And right now, with a lot of people thinking about leaving the United States, if this is something that you're considering as well, it might be a good time to kind of start getting your ducks in order, or at least doing some research. And we all have to ask ourselves, what is the line in the sand? What's the line in the sand for you? Is it when prices of everything just goes up so much that you can't afford it anymore? Is it when you can't afford your rent, your mortgage? Is it when civil unrest potentially erupts everywhere? Comment down below if you actually right now know what the line in the sand is for you, because I'm curious to hear from people that are watching this video, what will be their breaking point?
So if you're in that position where you're trying to determine what that line in the sand actually is, I hate to break it to you, but that is the line in the sand. If you are trying to determine how much more you're willing to tolerate, it's time to leave. Instead of thinking about it like a country, think about it like a partner. Like a partner that you're in a relationship with, preferably a romantic relationship, and you're trying to determine at what point will I leave this person? Is it after they hit me? Is it after they cheat on me? Is it after they threaten my life or my family's lives? If you're asking yourself those kinds of questions, it's probably time to leave right now.
34 days until we move to Ireland. I swear it cannot come any sooner. Anyways, here's where we're at now. We've got movers coming in 2 days to pick up all the stuff that we're shipping. So we're really only taking this section, and then we have this section that we need to sell.
A lot of people wanted to know why
That brings back war flashbacks of me selling all my belongings back in, I want to say it was late 2022, when I was leaving my apartment to go live in my car. Different discussion for a different day. One action step that you can take today, if you are not mentally prepared to book that flight right now, one thing you can do is start listing your stuff on Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp or whatever other app you want to use to sell your stuff. Start getting rid of your stuff so that you can respond quickly to this, again, dynamic situation. You want to have as much flexibility and freedom as possible, and the more stuff you have, the less freedom and flexibility you will have as a result.
I chose Albania. It's because of the lack of barriers to enter the country. As American citizens, we can live here for 1 year on just our passport.
I did not know that. So I've heard at least a few Americans who have moved to Albania, or at least planned on moving to Albania, and I never knew why, because I don't really know much about Albania or really much of Eastern Europe in general. Albania is in Eastern Europe, right? I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But honestly, now that she mentions that, that might be worth pursuing. That's something that I'm going to have to look into, because I'm not going to be in Thailand forever. In fact, we're getting ready to fly to Vietnam. By the time you're watching this, we're probably leaving in about a week or so, maybe even less. And we're just going to keep traveling, my girlfriend and I, pretty much in the coming years. So if we can go to Eastern Europe during that time, and Albania would provide a good solid base for us to do that, then that is something worth exploring.
You get off the airplane, you walk into the airport, you scan your passport, that's it. We can live here for 1 year, but after 1 year, you do have to leave the country for at least 90 days before you return. So for those of you all who are researching different countries to move to, you know that a lot of countries have, financial requirements, or you have to be a specific type of professional, etc. They don't have that here in Albania. So a lot of people consider it to be a really great starting off point.
So she said here in Albania, which implies that she's already there. And if she's already there and she's making this video, that means that she is vouching for it. So it's not just easy to get into, it's worth getting into as well. So again, I'm gonna have to look into this.
For their journey abroad, because it is a low barrier to entry. You can come and live by the beach in a nice apartment and enjoy yourself and figure out what your next steps would be.
All right, I am moving to Mexico. There's all of my belongings. Well, not all of them, actually. It's only a part of it. Oh, my car is packed. And the cat will sit back here. And I got this fan for her. And I have this a mesh barrier so that she can't come up front while I'm driving. My dog will sit up in the front with me.
So I think this is the first person throughout this video thus far to move south of the United States border. So be interesting to see if there are more people moving in that direction as well.
And then I just got the smallest U-Haul trailer. It's a 4 foot by 8 foot, but it is packed, completely full. There were stuff that I even had to leave behind because I just didn't have room for it. But it's about to start the 3-day drive, so we'll see how it goes.
I moved to Portugal about 5 months ago, and I live on the countryside, and I live on a beautiful farm where there's continuous life, continuous growth. It's so vibrant, all kinds of veggies, all kinds of fruits, all kinds of animals, and there's so much life here, there's so much positivity. My dad would always talk about his time when he was a child growing up on the farm in San Miguel in the Açores. And you know, you're a kid listening to this, you hear the same story a million times, you kind of just shrug it off. Being the person I am now at this age, I appreciate that a lot more. I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a beautiful thing. What an...
That weather in Portugal seems like it is A1. Look at how blue that sky is. I've never actually been to Portugal other than on a layover, so I never got a chance to walk around. But at least from the plane ride, as we were landing at Lisbon Airport, whatever it's called, Lisbon looked very, very nice. It looked like how I had imagined a place in Greece would look. So from the top down, it looked really, really good. And from the videos I've seen of it, it also looks really nice. So that's on my list of places to visit for sure.
Opportunity, good for stress, this is good for depression, this is fantastic.
Okay, I've been living in...
Honestly,
this is fantastic.
This is basically it for me. That's pretty much the dream. Just waking up every day, feeding animals, and living life. That's basically how I want my life to look. And in many ways, that's actually how it already looks. Wake up, film these videos a few days a week, go to the gym, write poetry, and then grab that green bag that you see back there that has a bunch of cat treats and dog treats and go find stray animals and feed them. That's pretty much how my life in Thailand looks. So it's nice to see that other Americans are becoming hip to the fact that this is a possibility.
Okay, I've been living in Costa Rica for almost 4 years now, and I would never in a million years want to live in a city in the States again. I see all you guys on TikTok, all these people in New York, LA, these major cities, and to me, that life was miserable. I was not happy. I was so stressed out. Didn't feel like I fit in. It was just like, it wasn't it for me. I had so much anxiety also. I was on medication for anxiety. That's how bad it was. I moved to Costa Rica. I am not an anxious person. Just turns out I wasn't meant to live in a city in the States.
I feel her on that. Places like LA and New York are just intrinsically stressful to be in. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just the pace that life moves at in those places and the transactional nature of so many of the interactions out there. It wears on you. It really truly wears on you. And if you're not someone in those places, and when I say someone, I mean someone, you're a nobody. As harsh as it is to say, that's the reality of being in a place like that, especially in the US. So I haven't been to Costa Rica, but I imagine it's fairly similar to Thailand in the sense that you just don't have to worry about that sort of stuff anymore.
It's wild what moving to Costa Rica has done for my mental health, physical health, my social life. I have the best friends. I love my life so much. I'm so happy here. People ask me all the time when I'm gonna move back to the States, and the answer is never.
I live in the Portuguese.
I don't know why people like to ask that question. It's like, why would I want to move back? Why would she want to move back to the US with everything that's going on there? Other than familial ties, there's no reason to go back. If my family did not live in the US, I don't even think I would ever visit again. I don't think I would ever visit the US again because I've seen what I needed to see.
Countryside. I just moved here from the US a few months ago, and I truly believe I'm the luckiest person alive because I'm spending my Saturday morning with my neighbors picking potatoes from a field, and I couldn't be any happier. So peaceful. Like, I learned so much here.
I think it's great that people are considering at least maybe finding life somewhere else other than the US if that's the right decision for them. But we also have to remember to consider that even though there are a lot of potential benefits of leaving the US, there's also different cons that we're going to have to face as well. And this woman particularly puts it well in this next video.
Anyone wanting to move out of America, it's all fine and good, but this is what living abroad looks like. A lot of the time, it's shitty and lonely and scary and exhausting.
So I will say I'm a bit privileged in the sense that I've never moved abroad without my girlfriend coming with me. Aside from that, I also have a very high tolerance for being alone. As an introvert, I don't really feel lonely pretty much ever. I don't ever crave a large community of people around me. I'm just not wired that way. And I've never had a breakdown moment like this while living abroad, but everyone's different. Everyone's expectations are different. She's obviously a lot older than I am, so she might be a little more set in her ways than I am as well. So maybe it's been more difficult for her to adjust. But again, for someone in her position, if she wants to leave where she's at, she can always catch a flight back to the US.
And there are a lot of people on here who will say,
And I'm not saying any of this to invalidate her feelings, by the way. I'm just saying from a practical standpoint, she will always have the option to go back. Whereas the people who are in the US, who are trying to figure out where to draw that line in the sand, by the time that line is crossed, they will not have the option to leave anymore.
Moved here and it's great. I know that is true. It's better than America, whatever it is, but there's also a lot of really shitty parts. My daughter was just here for 3 weeks. She left this morning to fly back to go to school. And I miss her already. And I don't have my my good friends, my friends who know me here to support me in this moment. And it sucks. So I'm missing my family and my friends. And I've been here 18 months. It's not like I'm new. I don't know why I'm posting this. I hate when people post crying on the internet, but I just want people, I've had a large influx on my FYP of either Americans that are moving abroad, planning to move abroad, have already moved abroad, and there's a lot of us. And there's a lot of reasons to want to move abroad, and I get that America is not a safe place for a lot of people right now. But it's just, you need to know the reality of like how mentally hard it is.
To my point earlier, I think that I'm privileged in the fact that I've never made an international move alone. So what I would actually recommend is if you can get somebody to move with you, then do that. Whether it's a friend, obviously if you have a significant other, that's the most logical option, or a family, of course they're going to move with you. But if you can convince one of your friends to move with you, that will probably make the move significantly easier for both of you. And again, if you both get there and you figure out after a few months, actually I don't really like it here. I want to go back to the US and experience all the things that I experienced when I was there. That's what airplanes are for. You miss your family, that's what WhatsApp is for. And of course, all of this is much easier said than done, because when you're actually an 18-hour plane ride away from your family, then of course it's difficult. But for me personally, it's more difficult to be in the US. That's just my personal experience. Everyone's going to be different. But for me, that's a trade-off I'm willing to make, because at the very least, through WhatsApp, through intentional communication, that's a barrier we can overcome. The barriers that the US is presenting are pretty much impossible to overcome in this day and age.
To start over. It's exciting, but it's also some really shitty days. So
there are advantages of being in your home country. You know people, you know the way things work, even though things are changing right now all over the world, kind of constantly everywhere. But realistically, you kind of know how to operate within your own country. So you have to consider all of that. Also, there can be political instability. Again, remember back a few years ago, everything that was going on. And with the rising tensions that continue, you really just don't know what can ever happen. So you have to take all those things into consideration. And then you have to think about economically as well. What do you plan to do to provide for yourself and your family? Even people that are digital nomads, we all know things can change overnight. You know, you can't always fully rely on income wherever you are getting it from, whether you are self-employed or not. And that's a risk that we all take. But again, hopefully you have some savings if you are going abroad, because
yeah, definitely make sure you have money saved up before you move abroad, or even before you travel abroad, because I can guarantee you, one thing that I can absolutely guarantee you right now that you will experience is you will have unforeseen expenses when you go abroad. Especially you come to a place like Thailand and you're dealing with extending your visa, things of that nature, you're going to come across unexpected expenses, and you have to have the money put away to handle those situations when they arise.
In the event that your income does stop, it may be a little bit more difficult to find another job wherever you are. So take all that into consideration. Again, especially if there is a language barrier, if you don't speak the language, these are all very realistic situations that you could find yourselves in. But nevertheless, a lot of people are moving overseas. In fact, something that's really interesting that I saw is that American home purchases in Spain surged 57% in Q1 of 2025, making U.S. citizens the fastest growing property buying group. This is according to the Daily Beast. So very interesting when you see numbers like that. People are definitely making changes. They're going to other places with a lower cost of living.
That's interesting. So Americans are really settling down in places like Spain. I'm curious to know what those numbers look like for other European countries. Spain obviously has a much lower cost of living than a lot of other European countries, at least in Western or Southern Europe, to my knowledge anyways. But Americans are going there and buying properties. They're not just renting. That's something that I would not have anticipated, honestly.
They are concerned about political and social unrest. They are concerned about not having affordable health care here. Before, if you weren't making money online, if you didn't have a remote, flexible job, it was a lot harder to go ahead and make moves like this. I mean, if you weren't retired, it was almost kind of like, you need to be retired or you need to be rich in order to do something like this. But nowadays, a lot of people do have this option to be able to go ahead and relocate, leave their home country in hopes for finding rest, for finding maybe a better place to live. So remember that relocating is going to involve a lot of paperwork. It's going to have hurdles. You're going to have to do a lot of financial planning. There's emotional considerations. There's a lot that goes into this, but it's not impossible. If it's something that might be right for you and your family, start looking into it now. Don't wait until you feel desperate to maybe necessarily leave the country. At least start looking into what would be some options and, get your passport in order if you don't have that already. Take other things into consideration. If you have pets that maybe wouldn't be able to come, do you have family members that could take them in, so on and so forth. What would you do with your home? What would you do with your belongings? And packing up and moving is a lot of work. Even if you just relocate from one state to another, take it from somebody that has moved quite a bit here in the United States, and it is a lot of work. And moving,
it's mostly a lot of work if you have a lot of stuff, if you own a lot of stuff. Something that my dad always told me, I didn't understand this until, again, I was in that situation where I had maybe 60 days to sell all of my furniture and stuff. Fun fact, people do not like secondhand furniture. I learned that the hard way. I digress. My dad always told me that the stuff that you own actually owns you. And I'm saying this to say that it behooves you to become a minimalist. In 2025, there's really no reason to not be a minimalist in this day and age. Because what's the point of having all of this stuff that oftentimes doesn't even serve a functional purpose in your life? Sell all of that stuff, use the money that you get from selling that stuff to buy a plane ticket, and if you don't have enough money or an online income to maybe be in Europe, come to Southeast Asia, go to South America, go somewhere with a low cost of living, and while you're there, you can figure out the money situation. Once you figure out the money situation and you get some savings put away, then you can go to Spain, you can go to Portugal, you can go pretty much wherever you want, and you can claim the higher quality of life that awaits you.